All right, we're ready to go. It's 6:30. Welcome, everybody. Good to see some faces in the audience over here tonight, and I know we have some online. Is that too echoey for you back there? Okay, sounds great. All right, well, again, welcome to this town hall. This is the third one of these that we've had this year. I try to do these things quarterly when I can. It's a very informal place to be today. We aren't going to, you have to stand up and do Robert's rules, which I really don't like a whole bunch, but we're going to try to make that easy. I'm Ron Pappas. I am the mayor of the town of Waxhaw. And one of the things I'd like to do first is obviously express our gratitude to the comms team and Forest Hills Church for allowing us to use this venue, and they've become such a great community partner with us. It's really nice to be able to have this someday soon. We hope to have our own venue like this so we can do this stuff. I do want some of those toys that he has in the back there, all the electronics is a lot of fun. So appreciate that. Also want to thank that our comms team that is here today supporting this, and our PIO team, our IT team, and our PD who's supporting this effort tonight. Again, this is a very casual format tonight. I'll have some things that I want to share with you. And after that, if you wish, you can have the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have on most any thoughts. We also have a team here from our public information group and partner that will also monitor if we can. If we're streaming, we can see some of those questions. So those who may be watching online, this is kind of a hybrid. So, but a few ground rules for tonight. We're here to just talk. We're here to be respectful. Remember where you are. Remember whose house you're in. Don't lose that thought. We have set up some areas for those who may want to have questions answered. We've got a platform over here where you can step up to the microphone and ask your questions if you want to. We'll wait till you get over there or kind of field them from here. We also have some portable mics. If that's more convenient for you, we'll try to have somebody monitor the questions from inside here as well. So thank you again for being here. This week we've had, or actually the last week and a half, we had a very successful Autumn Treasures Festival. Unbelievable numbers. I believe I've heard the numbers of over 16,000 people had attended that two-day event, which is a record setter. It's probably the most successful Autumn Treasures event in the town's history. The organization and the execution were near flawless. It really came off well. I was out on the street both days, all day long, and got to talk and meet a lot of people of the town. 16,000 people is a lot of people to talk to in glad hand. But not only were there people there to enjoy the shops and the eateries and the wares and the vendors, but they were also able to come by to a booth that we had set up for our town hall and our real town hall, the other town hall. And we had the town manager there, some of his planning staff, engineering and finance leadership teams, along with some of the memberships of the several departments that we have, all volunteered to be over there those 2 days, and were able to be visually and graphically able to demonstrate the goals and projects that the town has currently working on and what future plans are in place right now. As many of you know, we now have the start of a downtown park. That thing has been in the works for quite a while. It's never been able to be executed. I think the property was originally acquired in 2012, and the previous leadership just was not able to put together the funding for that. We've been able to do that now. That plan is coming up. We're about 100% on the plans. The bid packages are out, and the official groundbreaking will be on Friday, the 29th of October. And that site, if you don't know where it's at, it's just below the skate park on Givens there. It's a 10-acre site, and Givens and Church. So if you are so inclined and are available, please come out and celebrate with us. We're going to have the groundbreaking at 3 p.m. on Friday, the 29th of October, down there. That project's construction and funding is based in 2 phases, and to make things even better, through the efforts of our town parks and recreation developer and leadership team, with the support of the entire town staff membership, Town of Waxhaw has just been granted a $425,000 PARTIF grant, Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant, from the state of North Carolina. That will help significantly offset the town's investment in that property. This year, the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Authority took 58 applications for this funding and awarded only 14 grants. And the town of Waxhaw was one of those 14. It's a big deal since you have so many applicants. The actual maximum grant eligible was 500,000. So we got a significant part of that. It's quite an achievement again for the town. It's been the largest grant to date that the town has ever been granted. This is a matching grant, which means that the town of Waxhaw matches that grant dollar for dollar. And that was achievable because of some financial and fiscal planning we did the prior year to put us in position to have that cash available to match that grant. That was one of the considerations that the state did. That's not happened before. We are in the best financial position that we've been in the town's 132-year history. And this is all part of it. So kudos out to that team that put that together. Every bit of the team, the staff, internally and externally worked. But as I was walking through that Treasures Festival and speaking with some of the residents, it was interesting to note that as many times as we go out with information, some people say, well, I never heard that before. I didn't hear that. I missed that event. And I had many, many requests to tell the story again and share down the path that we've gone down in the last 22 months since this board has been in place. And so I'll try to recap that for you a little bit tonight. And we'll kind of go down that road. I'll kind of share some things with you. And then at the end of when I'm finished speaking, then we'll allow you to come up with some questions or we'll move over to you. So you might remember that early on, the town did not have a permanent town manager when I took office. Mayor Pro Tem McMillan led the search for a new town manager, led the search team for that. We hired a search agency that specialized in municipal placements. We went through more than 70 applicants for that position. And guess what? We didn't really find the one that we wanted in that first batch. It was kind of tough. And one of the reasons that was tough and we weren't getting to see the caliber of applicant that we thought we should be seeing, the answer from the search team was quite revealing. Their answer was, well, town has a little bit of a reputation. Says, how is that? Town had gone through 7 permanent and interim town managers in 4 years. So people were saying, oh my goodness, why would I want to apply for that job? You guys aren't going to keep me. I don't have any long-term security. And that was it. That was a real problem. So we did stress to them. We asked them to go back and stir up the search again. But in the meantime, a very interesting thing happened. The person, another person applied for the job. He was a known commodity to the search team, which was outside of our town leadership. And we got to have him ask the question on whether or not he wanted to apply for the position. We talked about it a little bit. We went through that candidate forum and decided that we narrowed it down to about 5 or 6 candidates and decided we narrowed it down to some more. They all went through the gauntlet that the town would have to go through. One of them was who is now the town manager. He survived more than 70 looks, if you would, for people that were applying for the job. And we discovered that he fit the bill both culturally, which is a big part of the fit, and he had the experience before. So he has now become our town manager. He's been in place for a little over 1.5 years, and it's been very, very good to work with him. But during that process, just before we found him, because he came into us at a late stage, midway through the search process, we had what we call our town retreat. And we get together in a big venue. We get all of the town leadership and all the staff together in one spot. And we talk about our goals, what we want to achieve, how we can do those. And we did that in January of 2020. And at the end of that process, we came up with what we call a North Star plan. It was kind of just a function of deciding, what we can achieve, what we can't achieve, what's financially doable. And the early decision was to have something that was not only achievable, but sustainable with a firm financial plan in place that we can actually achieve something instead of all the talks about what we're going to do and never be able to achieve them, which unfortunately, it was kind of a business as normal in the town. We also had to make some tough financial decisions regarding some real estate investments by the prior boards. This goes back to the conversation I just had about we were acquiring a lot of town asset and not being able to do anything with it. People were talking about, well, we'd like a new park. Well, how are you going to fund that? Wasn't a plan. In fact, some of the things they were calling parks really weren't parks. They were real estate that were purchased for one purpose at one time, went through a rendition of several decidedly interesting, I guess, if you will, um, uses on it. It was one time going to be a college. It was one time going to be a residential development. Property is zoned for residential development, but it just never got executed. They couldn't even agree on what to do with it next. So we decided that to better our financial position in the town and to raise some capital, basically shedding asset to conserve cash, that we put a little bit of a pause on spending, as certainly when COVID first started up. And we put a pause on the spending. We reevaluated our position. There were some deals that were in the hopper before I got there, and they decided that they were not viable. In fact, they were not good decisions for the town, so we took those back, regrouped, and then ended up selling a couple of those pieces of real estate. Now one is the Nivens building downtown, which is soon to house a new restaurant and a rooftop venue down there. So we're looking forward to that. But even before us, the prior board took the position that their financial plan wasn't viable. Just wasn't going to be sustainable and viable. So we continued on that path. And originally they had the Nivens building on the sales block to sell that building and the parking lot behind it, and then the corner lot, as we now affectionately call to the community corner. When we looked at the terms of that deal, again, it was not in the town's best interest to go ahead with that deal. So we pulled it back. We did end up selling it later on to an entity that we thought could perform. And they actually just bought the building. We retained the parking lot and the corner lot, which we still use today. A lot of it was over our last weekend on the festival. But after all that, once we decided that, we figured, well, we need to, again, have a plan. But we needed to have people in place that could execute that plan. So we looked at the town manager to say, we need you to build a team, and a team that was unified, that was experienced, that was capable, committed, and willing, quite frankly. Needed to have that. So during the last 2 months, or last 22 months, the town hired a finance director, created the positions of assistant town manager / town engineer, created the position of assistant to the town manager and town clerk, hired a new planning and inspections director, a new downtown manager, and a new events coordinator, in addition to several support positions throughout the organization. And in hiring the downtown manager, we learned a few things, but one of the things that we wanted to endeavor on this is to make sure we preserve and protect the integrity, the historical integrity of the downtown district, while still allowing those downtown businesses to improve their visibility and to sustain their growth. Controls were put in place to architecturally mandate any conditions with respect to construction alterations or improvements, along with a financial investment by the town in the form of facade grants. Originally, the facade grant limit was $25,000. Doesn't go real far, but we managed to squeeze out another 25 on top of that. So this year's facade grant allowance is $50,000. Now that's available for businesses, ownership buildings downtown to help them if they can't get the financing to improve their buildings or repair them. This grant is available to them, and it's funded by the town. We put up $50,000 this year. We granted the last of $25,000 late last year, and some of that improvement went to improve the glass on the Nivens building, which was where the hair salon is now, and it housed some of the entrepreneurial functions of some groups in town. But they pulled up all the siding, put in new windows, they've gutted the building, they're improving some of the space behind it. I think that what I heard on the Jekyll and Hyde is they will spend north of seven figures to improve that, which is a substantial improvement to our town. And of course, now that building is on the tax rolls. So instead of us not being able to collect taxes on it from sales taxes, we will also collect sales taxes and the property tax on it as well. But we want to make sure that we recognize that there was a need. There are a lot of needs in the town. And the board also realized that we needed to do a better job of communicating with our citizens. There are a lot of surprises, a lot of aha moments that we as a new board discovered when we took office. Some could be to the tune of a difference in about $10 million, $12 million difference to the town's financial picture. But in that endeavor to communicate better, we needed to make sure that we were transparent. And I don't think that the town was transparent as much as they should be before. And we needed to make the decisions to redirect the town's communication partners. We needed to rebrand the town's messaging and the communications and questions that the town's residents might have. That effort did culminate in the hiring of a new social media director, a new customer service / social media assistant, along with refocusing responsibilities of some of the internal staff to support those functions. So we hear you. We're out there making these changes. As you know, the saying is Rome isn't built in a day. And we've been taking the steps along these 22 months to keep going. During this period also, we had a mandate come down from the state of North Carolina, NC 160D. And that was to become fully effective in mid-2021, this year. So we decided that we needed to get ahead of that curve, and we decided to rewrite all of our land use codes. And originally they were called the Unified Development Ordinance. And we've now redone that, and it's now called our LDC. And with that, what we had is we were required as municipality to update and bring into conformance the newly legislated processes, boards, and commissions that were dictated in part by this NC 160D. So we made a proactive decision, and we moved forward on it, and we actually completed what prior leadership was not been able to complete inside of 5-6 years. We did it in 9 months to put that whole process in place. And it removes the subjectivity of the land development process and provides a clear and identified path for all property owners, because you got to remember, not everybody comes into the town to develop their property. Some are property owners, some are farmers, and we are mandated by the state as well to protect their rights while encouraging some business development. We've done some recent improvements, and with that, we've got the intersection improvement at NC 16 in Gray Byram, which some of you have noticed much needed over there. You're not stopping. That was probably the most vulnerable place for accidents to happen in there. So we have now light and left turn pockets over there. We've also outgrown our municipal facilities. We're in a facility now that's 6,000 square feet, and we're starting to cut up the offices in there and make them smaller, cut up the conference room and make offices out of those. We've just outgrown the space. So we know that we needed to grow that. We don't own that space, we lease it, and our lease was coming due. Now, there are not too many places in town that could house a company or organization as big as we are. So we looked at a property that we actually acquired from Union County on the corner of Waxhaw Marvin and Kensington. It's a 17-acre site. And that new site will house not only a new town hall for us, but also our Parks and Rec and our Public Services divisions. Each have outgrown their existing facilities. So we'll have that there. We're nearing completion on a sidewalk. If you've been downtown area, we've got a new sidewalk from the pedestrian bridge, footbridge, over to the mill area over there. During this last weekend, I saw a lot of people walking that at night. It's a safe spot now instead of walking in the grass or trying to walk along the pavement. We did that for a lot of reasons. It was something that was promised a long time ago. It's interconnectivity between the businesses downtown, but also to provide some safe passage for those who are out there. It's behind the guardrail, which is good. And we're also going to improve the bridge there. So when you come down off that bridge at the landing, you'll be able to go left or right. So if you can go to the mill, you can take off to the left side if you're coming down it. If you want to go somewhere else, we're also relocating the crosswalk that was at the base of that bridge. That'll be moved closer towards the women's club that's there. And we'll also have a flashing lighted beacon there, better visibility, more protective. Because we did have a citizen get hit there a couple of years ago. One of our citizens got hit. You just can't see there. It was placed in the wrong spot. So that'll help our visitors on that east South Main area. We've also installed one of those beacons that we're talking about is already at the intersection of Kensington and Sunset. It's a flashing beacon. It's actually solar powered. It's kind of cool, but somebody presses a button, lights flash, makes everybody aware that there's somebody wanting to cross. But we're always looking forward for ways to provide the best relational, financial, growth management strategies and practices in place for the town and for the best interests of the town. When we all took office, we get asked this question a lot, things that people would suggest that we do, but when we all took office, we swore an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the laws and the Constitution of the state of North Carolina. And we adhere to that. We hold to it. There's a lot of people I tease that'll come up and say, well, you can just do this. And I says, well, if you'll serve my jail time because you broke the law, then maybe that's a possibility, but probably not too many volunteers on that. But I think going forward, we have been very, very successful. We've instituted a lot of programs. We've been able to bring some new businesses in town. We are growing some more businesses. One of the initiatives that we wanted to do is make sure that we cleaned up some of the old projects that were left kind of in a skeletal state. One of them is being the Prescott Village area. We want to get that up and going. That was a pre-approved project years and years ago. It had actually failed significantly to the point where nothing got done on it. We met with the ownership, which is actually a bank, and worked out initiative for them to be able to be successful and lessen the burden on the front end, which was overburdened, quite frankly. And now you see what we have there is we have the start of the project there with a new gas station and car wash. And we have a bed and bark kind of place over there for dog animal care. We have a new Wendy's being built and a new Arby's already in place. There are some further talks for some more businesses to come there. We don't get to dictate necessarily what businesses go there. That's private enterprise, but we do shape on what they look like. So if you see the materials that are reused on those buildings, that you'll see it conforms with the thematic form that we have for the entire town. It matches some of the downtown buildings. So we want to, make sure that everybody is informed. And again, going forward, that's going to play into a lot of what we have, do, and say. So I'm going to make it kind of simple tonight. We can ask the questions, and if you have a question that you want to ask some questions on town, because we do have elections coming up soon. In fact, 2 weeks from tonight, I think it is. So November 2nd. And just also for some information to you, there's going to be a candidates forum on this Wednesday, October 20th, over at Five Stones Church at 6:30, where you can go there and be there live or watch it online as well. Be there live is more fun. And you can ask questions of the candidates. They're going to have some questions that are presented to them. Fox News early morning anchor guy, Jason Harper, is going to be the moderator for us. So we're looking forward to that. But if you have that and have that time available on your calendar, go be there. Some of our commissioners that are running right now are actually in this audience, and they'll be there on stage with 3 challengers that are out there. So there are 6 candidates for the 3 positions, and we just want you to be informed. So take part in that. Don't miss out. It's a good opportunity to make an informed decision, hear the right thing. But I'm going to kind of leave you with kind of a thought a little bit. I had something I was researching the other day, And I see a lot of things posted online, and I know we tease all the time about the effects of social media and where you get your right information, and it can be very effective and it can be very misleading. But in that research, I was looking at a quote, and it's actually from an individual in the 20s, actually, and his name was Herbert J. Taylor. And this was actually in the 30s, and he set out to save a company in the Chicago area. I think it was called Club Aluminum Products. I'm going to paraphrase on some of this. It was a distribution company, and he believed himself to be the only person that could save the company, and had 250 employees. And his recovery plan started with changing the ethical climate of the company. He explained first job was to set policies for the company that would reflect the high ethics and morals. If the people who worked for the company were to think right, they knew they could do right. What they needed was a simple, easily remembered guide to right conduct, a sort of ethical yardstick, which all of them in the company could memorize and apply to what we thought, said, and did. He searched through many books for the answer, but the right phrases eluded him. So what he did, as he did often, is when he had a problem he couldn't answer himself, he leaned over his desk, rested his hands in his head in his hands, and pondered. And after a few moments, he looked up and reached for a white paper card and wrote down 24 simple words that came to him. And here they are. I think they're pretty simple, hard to live up to, I'm sure, but we should all endeavor. But the first one is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? He called it the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Never changed. The 24-word test remains today as a central part and permanent rotary structure throughout the world. So I think it's interesting, something that was that far back. The test has been promoted around the world and is used in a myriad of forms to encourage personal and business ethical practices. So as you explore today the candidates that are out there, you make your own choice, but make an informed choice. Vet your work. Make sure you're not being led down the road by misleading statements, by some things that you read somewhere on social media. It's helpful sometimes, but not always. Make sure you make that effort to hear what people have to say and what they represent. And you can make their own choice. You can make your own choice on November 2nd. So with that, I'm going to keep it simple tonight. Anyone you've been monitoring online, any questions that may have come up over there so far? Not? Anybody in the audience like to raise a question or have a question? You're standing up. Okay, if you would come to the podium, and if you would for everybody here, speak loudly and clearly so that you may be heard. And please state your name and where you live. Bend that down for her. There you go. Bend it closer. You're going to need to get real close to it. Thank you.
That's good. All right, good. I'm Holly Culhane. I live over here in Old Hickory, and every day I struggle getting out of Old Hickory. And I've heard comment previously that, I've heard a couple comments that the little cut through going in to by Arby's and that whole area down at the end of Pine Oak is going to be open for us so we can get out and go to the stoplight. And then I've heard there's going to be right turn only by Pine Oak going in, onto 16. And then I heard, no, they're not going to open that little cutout for us. And we're all going to have to do the Michigan right turns down on Providence Road. And I'd like to know what the real facts are here because it's terrible. Coming out on Pine Oak has turned into the new Gray Byron by the hospital. You can't turn left. And if you do, you're taking a chance. When my dad and I come up to that corner, it's like Is there anything your way? No. What about your? I can go. No, I don't go this way. Don't. And we have this debate
And then
until all of
crash.
a sudden we can both go. But it's terrible, and I'm very frustrated with it because I don't know what the real answer is.
Okay, I can share with you a little bit of that. Thanks for that
Please,
question
sure.
because that is a tough intersection
It's
to get
terrible.
in and out
Yeah.
of. As we have further developed the Prescott Glen Parkway there and that project, I just went mute. There we go. Um, we have asked to revise the street plan for that segment in there, and we recognize that we do have some issues to deal with at Pine Oak and 16. Now, you know that we don't control those roadways. NCDOT does. And so we have to compete for funds to make those improvements, get in line. They've got a grand plan that they're going to improve the roadways with all this Michigan left turn stuff. But at our last meeting with them, we learned that they are certainly behind in their progress, and they're about $10.5 billion, what they call overprogrammed in the state. So that's a big overprogram, and essentially says we don't have the money for these projects to go forward. When they have the money, we don't really know. It's really up to them. But what we've done is been a little bit proactive on that, since we have that development in Prescott Village there to contend with. We asked them to redirect some of the traffic flows through there. And what we've accomplished so far, and it's in the buy-off stages with DOT right now, is we're going to take traffic down off of Pine Oak at the hairpin midway through there. We're going to redirect that traffic in an S curve back onto Prescott Parkway to come out, Prescott Glen Parkway to come out at that light. Yes, there will be, the thought is to put a right in and right out at Pine Oak and 16. So coming out of Pine Oak, you'll only be able to go south unless you drop down onto Prescott Glen and go to the light. And then going into there coming from north to south, you'll only be able to access Pine Oak and the right turn in, so the residents can get into their neighborhoods that way. There will be a new connection down at the west end of that, so if you come out of those neighborhoods along there, you'll be able to intersect with that new S curve and be able to make your choice on going west or back onto the parkway. So that'll help significantly. We are hopeful that that certainly avoids another traffic light within 200 feet of that intersection, which is more frustrating. But that's where we're headed with that right now. And the ownership of that property, they have acknowledged that that's probably a good way to go. So we think we're going to get that coming forward. So thank you for that question. Any other brave souls up here? Any questions? Anything come up? There you go. Sir, come on up. Just if you would, just tell us who you are and speak clearly. Get up there, the mic. There you go.
You scratch a local person, and they're either from New Jersey or from New York, so I feel very much at home here. We relocated from Palm Coast, me and my wife, and as of 2 months ago, and we're living in the Glen Creek development over there next to the church or the camp yard. So I'm new to this, and I've come down basically to identify some people. My question is this: I like the bicycle. Is there any plans anybody conceiving plans of safe bicycles? Your roads here are awful, and just nothing new, and they're winding and the visibility around the corner, so it's not a safe activity to be riding a bicycle. And whenever I see anybody with a bicycle, I say a prayer for them, because I realize if the car hits the bicycle hits the car, it's not good for the bicycle. So any plan, number one, is any idea of any planning, or is there somebody who's planned safer routes for those who like the bicycle?
Great. I'm going to ask town manager to come up and speak to that. Jeff Wells back there, that'd be great. And I'll just let him join you up there,
All
and
right, super.
you can explain it.
Cool. Thank you.
Not that I can't, but I think he's the best candidate.
We meet again.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is actually a question that was asked of me pretty extensively at the Autumn Treasures Festival, that among a few other things. And so the answer to your question is yes, we are planning for that, but we have a lot more to do with that. We do have some existing plans on the books for some bicycle friendliness on Waxhaw Marvin Road where it is sorely needed. But of course, we do not have that in the funding cycle as of yet. There are a couple of other places where that could also be a good feasible possibility. We are right now in the process of completing a comprehensive pedestrian plan, and it does include some of those components in it, along with greenways and sidewalks. So we feel like once we complete that process, we'll have a better overall handle in the town of not only what our pedestrian needs are, but also our bicycling needs, and try to differentiate between the recreational biking needs versus the I guess you'd call them the more serious bikers, such as the ones that you typically see out on Waxhaw Marvin Road, particularly on the weekends, but not exclusively. Sometimes you see them during the week as well. So I would encourage you to contact our planning staff. I'll give you a card here to learn more about that.
Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Another question?
Yeah, I got another question. The other one is when you're driving some of the roads, there's obvious potholes, culverts, and I'm wondering, who do you report something like that to? Because if you make the mistake of going in it, you're going to overcorrect and go right into head-on traffic.
You might not come out.
Well, yeah, some of them are getting that size. Who do I report a pothole to? Simple thing like that.
You can do it in one of two ways. You can do it directly, calling up the town or going on the website and reporting that. We obviously will defer to some of our crews. If we can get out there, sometimes it's one of our roads that we maintain.
Sure.
If it's one of the major arterials, then we have to go to DOT and make sure they know about it. There's also a website for DOT to report that too, but most residents wouldn't know the difference between the two responsibilities. But you can go call, you can call the town manager if it's available for one, but it's easy enough to go on the town's website or call into the town offices, and they will take note
Super.
and forward it to the appropriate person.
Super.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right.
I really feel blessed. I've lived in San Francisco. I've lived in Palm Coast, and I've lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I think you guys can compete with the beauty that God has given us. Is absolutely let's go out of our way to protect it and protect one another. Because we live in a very special place.
It is a special place. There's no doubt.
question about that.
Exactly. Some of the questions that were asked of myself and sometimes the town manager was at the event on the last weekend at the autumn festivals there was having to do with the circulation, the traffic circulation plan. And this plan has been we'll call it on the books. It's shown on some what we call approved maps for the last 25 years. And that's a circulation plan that deals with what we know as Waxhaw Parkway. Starts in the north end, starts at the post office there at that intersection where the CVS and the post office are, and goes east and west in a semicircular manner. That project has just never gotten any traction until recently, where we worked with NCDOT and getting them to take their focus off the downtown area where they don't have enough real estate really to fix a transportation problem. We get 19,000 cars a day through that downtown intersection, which is a huge amount. 85% of those cars go through the intersection and go somewhere else. They don't necessarily, especially during peak traffic hours, they don't stop there. They're on their way home to somewhere else, and vice versa on their way into work the following morning. So Waxhaw Parkway was a topic that came up several times, people asking when you're going to get it done. Well, again, that's usually an NCDOT issue that they have to solve. It has been low on their totem pole because of the cost of acquisition for land and right of way and things like that. But we are now working with those landowners on some of those parcels that have recognized that the only way that this is going to come to fruition is they do it themselves. And so that is a likely scenario to happen. It's a long-term scenario. It's not going to happen tomorrow, as in a lot of things. This other plan's been on the books for 25 years and has absolutely no movement. The only sections of Waxhaw Parkway that you see are the ones that exist that go nowhere. So, but one good thing about the plan is now their focus is on those bypasses, as we call them, to get traffic out of that downtown area, to free it up. Because frankly, when people come to the downtown area, if they're coming after work, they want to go to eat downtown or visit a store downtown, they have to compete with the through traffic that's going somewhere else. And it's discouraging to go in there. So they time their runs to go around all the side streets and down Providence and around another street and cut through neighborhoods. So we're hoping that we'll be able to help them eliminate that. We do have a project that's up and it's funded with NCDOT Rail and CSX on Helms Road, where you notice they might have closed off some of those crossings there on the railroad track. Well, NCDOT and their rail division worked with CSX. They needed some more stacking for some storage on that side of the track. So they're closing a couple of those crossings, but what they're going to do in return is do something that hasn't been done here in a long time. They're going to build an overpass over the tracks that we can have access both sides. Because as I've shared once before, I was sitting at the railhead there on Broome Street, which is right in the downtown area. Train was going by, crossing arms were down. I'm sitting front row of one, and we have an EMS vehicle on the other side sitting there, lights going on, flashing, can't go anywhere. As you all know, in an emergency situation, moments mean everything. And if that emergency vehicle can't get across the track, could mean somebody's life. So that is projected to be started and completed inside about 2-year period from about now. We're pretty close. I think they're in the final designs of that. And that'll take traffic at least from Helms and Waxhaw Marvin down to the railroad track up and over, and it actually what we call J-hook back onto, much like J-hook back onto 75, much like the one that's in Monroe, where Martin Luther King Boulevard is over there. So it'll be a complete bridge over the top, come down, come back and access, and then you can go east or west from there. So there's a lot of good things that we've been able to do. One of the things that's been helpful for me is I also sit on the board of what we call the CRTPO, and my role as mayor allows me to do that. That CRTPO is the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, and they are the liaison between NCDOT and the municipalities. So they actually start to decide or try to help municipalities get funding, or at least the access to funding for these roadway improvements. But they've always been, in their history, they've been reactive instead of proactive. And I co-chair a committee that will change that direction. In fact, Wednesday night, I have to give another talk and tell them the direction that we've taken to get out ahead of the growth that we have, because growth is inevitable. People want what we want. Just like you said here, it's a great place to live. People come here, they have children. They want their children to stay here. Our vision should be 20, 50-year vision, not short-sighted for tomorrow. Those decisions in the past to try to keep things the way they were just haven't worked, quite honestly. You look around you and what you can or cannot get to because decisions that were made years ago when they said, okay, we're going to open up the development, we're going to open up all these master plans. Those things were approved 20 years ago, 10 years ago, long before us. And so we're, now charged with taking those corrective steps, which we are, because we've been really lucky to develop a team that has the experience, that has the capability, and we put ourselves in a financial position to assist, much like we did when we started out with Gray Byram. We actually told the state that we'd fund it 100%. It was a $500,000 cost. That kind of got their attention, which was in a good way. They went ahead then and completed the improvement. Some of that money that we had in our pockets for that were actually part of the development funding that came when projects like Monroe Bridge came to us. That was a long time ago and just sat there and nothing happened. So we were able to exercise our rights on that. Going back to what I was saying about the CRTPO, we're getting out ahead of things now and starting to plan with municipalities and looking at their future land uses, which should have been done decades ago instead of reacting after the fact. We talked a little bit about, you were asking about the left turns, the Highway 16 left turns. They seem to favor that Michigan left turn, which is come to an intersection, go left or right, turn around and come back. Kind of annoying. I have a daughter that lives in Michigan. They work. Depends on how many cars you have, but they do work if you have enough stacking behind that to make that all free up the intersections. So, but those plans right now are probably put off until 2027, 28, if not later. And so we have to help ourselves. We have to do as many things that we can to fund the projects to try to take a little bit of that traffic pressure off of us whenever we can. So if that helps a little bit. We've got a lot of things going on in the town forward planning to look at. We've got some new entities coming towards us that we have to plan for. But while we do those things and when we have those discussions with landowners or property owners, we start to talk about our positions to negotiate with them. Because state law won't let us charge impact fees for the impacts that those landowners will have on us eventually. It's just the way it is. You have to work on it. So we've been able to, in some instances, redesign some old projects. And by redesigning them, we got a better project out of it that has some retained green space, some pathways, some walkways, some stream beds, some tree save. And by negotiating some of that, some of the yield was higher, but we achieved $1 million contribution to our roadways in the downtown area. We have a new traffic light that would come with that project at Rehoboth and 75. We got about 100 and, let's see, I want to say $428,000 contribution to our efforts on the roundabout that will happen on South Providence, where it splits there, it goes east on 75 and then south. That'll be a roundabout. This is going to take some time, but our obligation of that was $500,000 as a town. We got a $428,000 contribution from that piece of land that helped, in addition to about another $120,000 at the intersection of 75 and 16, which will help us with some future endeavors along the sidewalks and things like that. We're also in the plan, if you've seen around town, some billboards that we've erected in the downtown area, showcasing some of the projects that we're doing. One of the projects that we're working on East North Main, or Northeast Main, I guess we'd say it that way. We're going to change the traffic pattern in there. And that's where Dream Chasers is and the Creamery is on that side. We're going to make that into a one-way street coming from, it'll be in a clockwise rotation. And with that, we're going to increase our sidewalk capacity in there. So we have more pedestrian capacity, which is what we're looking for, which will also allow the business owners there to expand onto the sidewalk, a little bit of a sidewalk cafe thing. We're also picking up about 20 some odd parking spaces along with that, which is much needed. We'd like to solve all the parking problems downtown, but quite frankly, the town doesn't own enough real estate down there to do that. And that's a tough thing to do. You noticed during the festival that we had last weekend, we were shuttling people from different locations all around town. And that's helpful. So we're going to probably have to get used to doing that until we can acquire, if there is a chance to acquire more real estate over there. One of the first endeavors of the first phase of the downtown park is in the front of it, there's 120 parking spaces. We're going to get that going first, so we can then alleviate a little bit more of the pressure down there. The ownership behind those buildings on South Main is all private. Town does not own any of the real estate back there. We own the skate park and some other things. So we don't have very many options. And right now, they're not for sale to us. And frankly, it's like the decision we made on the location of the town hall. That property was acquired from the county for $39,000 an acre, $39,000 an acre, which is a bargain. Tough site, but it was a bargain. Put us there. Anything downtown might cost us $1 million an acre. So for the $660,000 we spent for that 17 acres to replicate that in our downtown area would be $17 million. That's quite a difference. And we are, making as sound as we can financial decisions to make sure that we can achieve our goals. From that downtown, or from that location at Waxhaw, Marvin, and Kensington, you can reach almost any point in the town in about 7 minutes. It's really easy to go down from there, down Waxhaw Marvin, get right into the downtown area, and we can go east all the way towards the Lawson neighborhoods as well, and then everything in between. We're also trying to encourage development around the, what I call the quadrant of the intersection of Kensington and 16 to make that more walkable. There's plans now that are in play already to clean up the creek over there where the traffic bridge is there at 16 and the 12 Mile Creek, going westward over there to clean up that, so have some usable area in there. Might have some water features in there to enhance. We're trying to get the development groups that actually bought the old YMCA site over there to engage with our pedestrian plan and get some pedestrian access across the river there, either at the bridge or midway through the Prescott project. There are a lot of projects that are coming to town, but none that we can share with you right now because we don't like to share anything that's before it's time. There's, planning to do a lot of these projects, like some of the old projects, never come to fruition. They come to conversation and then they realize whether they can or cannot do it. So there's a lot of interest in our town. There's a lot of rumor mill on what may or may not come. Again, I don't like to share the rumor mill. That just makes it impossible to have further conversations when that rumor mill said one thing and then the reality is something else. So we want to make sure that we aren't putting out misinformation as well. So any other questions? It's 7:20 right now. Mr. Ferris, come up and you can tell everybody who you are and ask your question. Thank you. Tell everybody who you are, if you will.
My name is Daniel Ferris. I'm on the Oaks on Providence. I've been here for a couple of years. Thank you, Mayor. I know this has been sorely missed, the interaction with the community, with the boards not being able to meet due to the time we're in right now. I have two questions. First question, the town has seen great growth. The census just came out. I believe our town is about a little over 20,000 residents now. With that, can you, or do you have updated numbers on the current residential dwellings versus the commercial properties in the town and that ratio that exists? I believe when you first came in as mayor, it was 97% residential, 3% commercial, if I'm not correct.
It was actually 93.7 was that ratio at the time. And yes, we have grown. We have, I think I talked about this in my last talk, but forgive me if I repeat it. We have now 20,534 residents, 32. That's right. 20,534 residents that we know of in the town of Waxhaw right now. The ratio when we came to office 2 years ago was a 93.7. I mean, 93% of our revenue was driven from residential component, and 7% was driven from something other. We are now at the last notice that we got on that, we're 89.11. So we've moved it 4 points, and that is significant to move at that. Ideally, you'd like to have maybe a 60-40 mix. That's going to take some time. You have to admit and acknowledge what we all enjoy in the town of Waxhaw right now. All the restaurants, all the grocery stores, everything that you are able to go to is a byproduct of the residences. Our tax base, the revenue that we get, everything that we get to operate with is driven by residential right now. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. The bad thing is when you don't manage it properly when it comes to and what happens next. How do you negotiate for roadway improvements, infrastructure improvements, things like that? That's what gets out of balance, and that's what didn't happen before.
My second question here overlaps a little bit with the elections going on, not just for our town, but our residents hopefully remember that we also have county officials up for re-election. With that said, can you elaborate a little bit on the current status within our town on what's going on with the 99% sewer capacity per the county meeting today? That was the percentage used for the 12 12 Mile Creek wastewater treatment facility. 99% was used today.
That's always been a fun one to tackle, and thank you for that. We, again, as a municipality, aren't able to control the usage or monitoring early on of that 12 Mile Creek sewer facility. It takes in stuff from all over the county, frankly. They ship it across the county in some instances. They had originally built that plant, has a 15.5 million gallon per day capacity. And it had been operating effectively and efficiently at about less than half that capacity for years. And I believe it was a year and a half ago, I think in 2019 actually, is when they completed another improvement to take that to the 7.5 million gallon capacity. And that was supposed to last through 2032. And then all of a sudden one day they said, oh, we're out of capacity. And we said, wait, you just finished that improvement. How could you be out of capacity? Well, they talked about all the things and measurements and all this stuff. I said, no, really, I just really want to know what's going through there today. And so we as municipalities, countywide, asked them to provide that data. And the data wasn't clear. And so we kept pressing. We wanted more clear, more transparency in it. The reality is that some of their calculations for capacity were based on some future uses on what they called reservations on projects that have not even seen a shovel hit the ground yet. And they may not see a shovel hit the ground for years. And it was huge capacity. Plus, it was also learned that there is additional capacity available to us through Charlotte, about 900,000 gallons a day, which is huge. The other part we understood from them as well is that they had significant leakage into the system. So water was coming in during heavy rain season, was somehow finding its way into the sewer system and using up all that available capacity, which still has to run through the program. But we also said, well, if water's seeping into that, there must be something seeping out of it as well. So they've had to answer some pretty hard questions from all this, and we have actually a very good working relationship now with the county. We are trying to work this together and make sure they understand the problems as we think we do. You know, first off, they have to seal off some of those areas where they have some internal seepage. Some of that, they said, came from, you know, the vent holes. You ever walk across a sewer manhole and you see 4 or 5 little vent holes in them? If a street is flooded, what do you think happens? It goes into the sewer system, and it kind of probably misrepresents the use that's out there. So they had to take care of some of those. Now, some of them were actually lower than what we'd call flood grade. And so if a street flooded, it automatically went down in there. So they're in the process of sealing some of those off. And in other areas where they're in outlying areas where they have in fields where sewer line runs across it, they're actually raising those manholes up to be above that plane of water that hits that all the time. So they're taking corrective action. And recently, where'd he go, Daniel? Recently, to your point, they lifted the cap, because the cap, I guess, was something that was set by them because of what they saw that their capacity was at the time. But I think they understand their flows a little bit better now, and I think they've taken some corrective action. The good part is during the corrective action on the sealant, we've also had a little bit of a drought, so it eliminates the worry about water seeping into that. So it's a little bit of a win-win, but we expect them to make the right choices going forward. They are diligently looking for ways to increase the flow for future uses, basically on the east side of the county. They're looking at some acquisition of a place over there to put up a new sewer plant. We've asked them to take a good hard look on opening up the capacity and what the capacity can be opened up to here at 12 Mile. We've asked them to take it up to the full 15.5, because that use probably won't be used for years. That would at least put them in position to achieve their original goal of having capacity through at least the mid 2030s. And that's a good part. We should never be able to um, take advantage of a municipality as far as we should not be able to politicize a municipality. That is something that's for the people. We need to make sure that utilities, public utilities are for and by the people. They should not be used for political purposes. And, this may or may not be a case of that, but we just wanted the right information. And they've been very cooperative so far. So appreciate that. Any other questions? Anything from the floor out there? People been quiet tonight. Everybody's going to watch it later over there. So, all right. So we have one question. I see. Okay, there you go. Good. Thank you. Come on up. Tell us who you are, where you live.
I'm Valerie DuPont. I do not live in town with a home, but I am in town a lot and have lived in Jackson Township off of Davis Road near the Jar Center, just a mile from the Jar Center for 32 years now.
Very good. Welcome to town.
Thank you. Yeah. One question that I have is concerning what I've observed as a change as to what kind of traffic is coming down Main Street as I enjoy sitting outside and having a nice provisioned meal. We can't talk. The construction trucks and so forth. That change, I don't know how that happened and if it's going to be reversed, but it makes it difficult to enjoy anything outside because these big trucks, you can't, even when we had the 9/11 celebration, I could not hear because of the trucks that were going
Noise.
past. I could not hear what was going on. I just watched mouths move.
You get real good at reading lips. So
Yeah.
the 75 issue has been on, again, the boards for a long time. If you go back into the town's documents, you can see where at one time there's planned bypasses to the north and to the south and east and west and on the south side. The alignments aren't set in stone. They were drawn on a map 25 years ago. And the idea was to take that traffic off of that main roadway and divert it around. Like we all know, we have bypasses around the communities. 485 is one of them. 277 is another one, that kind of thing. And you get the traffic away from the downtown. Right now, 75 is a state-controlled road, and it's the only east-west road. And there are no available options today to lessen that. It is interesting. I sit out there as well. You sometimes have to wait to finish your sentence. The train makes it a little bit more interesting too when it goes by. You also stop there, but I think we all have gotten used to that. But until we get the bypasses done, then there'll be little relief down there, and the state would not be willing to change the direction of commerce traffic going through there. So
And we're talking 2027, 2027?
well, that is actually the projections for something up and down 16.
Okay,
And so we're trying to hurry that around. I mean, we're already going to be in 2022.
right,
Comes up really fast.
right.
We'd like to get some of that because some of that traffic actually does come all the way down Providence to the downtown area and goes
Right.
east or west.
That's right.
And so any amount that we can minimize going through that would be certainly helpful. And that would be first taken up by the parkways.
Okay.
There was one time when I served over in Lancaster County. I was vice chair of the planning board over there, and we were working on an initiative to basically open up traffic from 75 going west to 521 and carry it from 521 all the way to 77. That would have alleviated a lot of the people's traffic patterns going north on Providence or north on 521 to catch the 485 to go to the same location. But at the time, when I approached the town wasn't willing to pursue those bypasses. So we're living with a little bit of those things, and sometimes very well intentioned, but not necessarily effective. So
Thank
I
you.
wish I could give you a better answer on that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. We get a lot of questions like that from the town board on circulation and why things weren't done. And again, we say it over and over again. I mean, there are some very well-intentioned people that were in your leadership before, and they had a certain idea of how the town should be shaped. But at the same time, 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago, they literally opened the doors for investment to come into the community. And that resulted in your master plan communities like Millbridge and Lawson and those, but they didn't unfortunately solve the problem of what that brings next. And we're trying to deal with that today. So it's a tough question. But you can be assured that this team that's here now is working on all of those things. There's not much new that people bring to us, not too many surprises that we haven't already been experiencing and that we've gone down the roads with our staff. And they're doing everything they can to maneuver through the laws that we have to deal with. You know, a lot of people think that we can just break laws and just make it happen because we're the town. It doesn't work that way. You know, we're constrained by the same things that you're constrained with, and we swore to uphold those values and those laws and rules and regulations. So it's been a good journey. We've had really good success, and we're really proud of where we are, how we got here, and we hope to continue that with our town manager and his group over there. We've got some really great people that are really endeavoring to get things done for us. I tease all the time. I tell the story a lot that sometimes I'm talking about something in town hall, and before I hit the door, they're already on it. And that probably wasn't the culture before. And that took a lot of effort by the town manager and by this current board that's in here to develop those relationships, to make sure. If you want to know what the town's like to work with right now, go ask somebody in the staff. Almost any one of them. Got one sitting back there, at least one. Go ask anybody what it was like before and what it's like now. The culture has changed. That took a lot of work. That took a lot of work and concession by everyone. And we want to continue that. So with that, it's 7:36. Any other questions from the field out here? Nothing that's come across online, which is unusual. They're all going to watch tonight or not at all, right? So I try to hold these every quarter at least to get out there. COVID has made life a little bit more interesting, as you guys know. We can't gather as much as we used to. We can't gather in the places that we have been used to gathering in. We used to gather in our police department over there. That's kind of a small venue. But going forward, we hope to have some new places for us to gather so we can be visible and be the right town for you guys to make sure that everything that we know and do, we can actually take care of. And, you know, there's some things that are out of our control. We would ask that you guys become involved and understand it. You get a lot of people that like to, you know, they lob in things from the side. They really don't understand the processes. One of the programs that we have is our Waxhaw 101. And we have almost everyone going through that. That's on our board, and certainly people. But the Waxhaw 101 allows us to tell the residents in the town how the town operates. So I'd encourage you guys to sign up for that. That's held usually once, maybe twice a year. And each department head comes to that session and will explain how the town operates and what's necessary. It's enlightening, to say the least. Now I do see we have something coming up from the side. You got a question?
Yep, from Heather Williams. Are there plans to increase commercial businesses south of the tracks? That's the literal question.
South of the tracks. Are there plans to increase commercial businesses south of the tracks? I guess the answer is it's kind of limited over there right now. There's not much real estate or office potential. All that land south of the tracks is privately owned. So we don't govern necessarily, we don't direct how that's to be used. As you all know, that the mill is there now with its business operations. You've got operations at Millview, which is a building on the radius there. You've got where the Waxhaw Women's Club is, and you have going west all the way to where 701 Main is. So as you go by there, there's not much real estate to actually grow into. We'd like to see it a little bit different. We wish we owned more land behind those storefronts there, but we don't. So would we encourage it? You bet. Would we like to partner with some of those business owners or landowners on that? Yeah, we would. would like to see it happen, but there's just not much real estate down there. If we expand in the downtown area at all, the only available space that we have to us right now is actually coming north from the tracks, up 16, up to the post office. That's really the only space that we have. We can grow anywhere in between there. But then there's a little bit of land to the west of the downtown area, but it is again north of the tracks. So appreciate that. Thanks for that comment. The only one up there right now? Okay, well, that's good to hear. It's good to hear. So unless there's anybody else that has a question to us, I thank you guys for actually coming down and being here tonight to hear a little bit of what we have to say. And we want to give you guys the opportunity to ask us questions all the time. We're available. We're out in the downtown, as some of us call making payroll with some of the local restaurants and stuff. We're down there a lot and we're available. We do get bombarded sometimes. I will sometimes get a just barrage of 200-300 emails a day. I mean, it just gets silly and I have to put my filters on to delete them because some of them are advertisements, some are solicitations. So I have to sit through those. And my schedule myself personally, I probably put in 60 to 70 hours a week doing this. It is a full-time job and I enjoy it. We've done some good things here and we've made some great strides. So thank you for coming tonight. And again, if there's any way that, or any reason that you need to reach us, please reach out to any of us in the town hall. We're pretty visible and pretty easily reached. So thank you very much.